welcome to round number 3 here of our 5th Autumn Challenge here at Second Zero Boys in Pico Rivera, California. We are here once again and welcome you for our Pokemon action. I am Jesus Coronel. This is Dennis Geisler. We have round number 3. We have Anthony Plasencia and we have Jackson Cashman on the stream.
Yeah, and on Jackson's side, we have a pretty interesting Pokemon we don't get to see a whole lot of, and that is the Venomoth. I am actually a pretty big fan of the Venomoth. The Shield Dust is a kind of rare ability. It's basically a built-in covert cloak. I like that quite a bit alongside the Focus Sash, so you can kind of have both. You get the Rage Powder, Struggle Bug, Sleep Powder, Psychic Noise. A lot of utility that you can pack into something that also doesn't really need to like Fear Taunt a whole lot, because you still have 2 attacking moves. Really nice. In any case, Anthony has the Talonflame, Sneasler, Incineroar, Ursaluna Blood Moon, Nail, Indeedee, and Electabuzz. Jackson with the Venomoth, as noted. Alola Ninetales, Golden Go, Talonflame, Primarina, and Garchomp.
Yeah, if you've taken familiar notes on Anthony's team, it's just Hector's team that we saw earlier round 1. That is also the Sacramento winning team. It's gotten popular, and it might be the pick for Toronto again.
It is. I mean, it's a very good team, all things considered. You get the Unburdened Sneasler if you want it. You can have a bit of a slower mode, even a Trick Room mode, if you want it. Electabuzz, we've talked about how good of a Pokemon that is. A lot of stuff just comes together for this team, and it's interesting because after this regulation has been so much of weather wars, what's the best weather, how do you face against other weathers. I mean, this team on Jackson's side, it's not a super heavy weather team, excuse me, but it does have the Snow Warning Ninetales, and it does mean that Aurora Veil basically gets up for free, since you don't really have a way around just that getting set up. Even despite that, I think that the team that Anthony's running, the team that Hector's running, this team is just really good, top to bottom.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's it's been proven to be like. It might still say for the rest of the regulation A should no intrusion barriers yet in a way. Anyway, Jackson going to lead Talonflame Ninetales, Anthony going to lead Talonflame Ursaluna. So this Ninetales definitely has the better edge of, in terms of speed. You can get up on Aurora Veil, maybe starts launching those blizzards in the snow. But I think what's going to be the big thing this turn, well, obviously other than the Terra from Anthony, which I think is going to be the Blood Moon Ursaluna to the normal type to make sure that you're not weak to Ice type, because we've seen this Ursaluna Terras always seem to be out of these weaknesses.
Yeah, and I mean, it helps if your Terra out of a weakness is also doing ridiculous amounts of damage with your normal type moves, and that it can't be blocked by ghost types as well.
Yeah, there's a tail end from the Talonflame from Anthony. Jackson gonna like to use the Gale Wings and knock off that Gale Wings ability with the Brave Bird doing damage to the Ursaluna, so it allows it to get out of the Hyper Voice. It's going to knock out the Talonflame. Ninetales holds on. Did it launch a Blizzard or did it launch an Aurora Veil? Both can work in this situation, because I think Blizzard knocks out the Ursaluna, or you set up Aurora Veil for your teammates.
Yeah, I don't hate the Aurora Veil setup, although at the same time you are at a pretty steep speed control disadvantage at this point, and the Aurora Veil does have damage and all of that. Ursaluna does a lot of damage. You still have to be very concerned about what this Ursaluna is going to do to you, even despite the Aurora Veil being up.
And there's Primarina, who's going to really appreciate that Aurora Veil, but who knows if it'll appreciate taking a Blood Moon from the Ursaluna. Yeah. But also, this Talonflame still has Gale Wings intact, and it can launch that Dual Wing with priority.
I was going to say, you can kind of just click Hyper Voice and Dual Wing.
Oh, unless it misses.
Unless it misses. It shouldn't be a huge deal. We'll see how
Primarina takes it. Well, Ninetales is definitely not taking this. Primarina doesn't even do half.
Yeah, I was going to say, Primarina takes this pretty well. It's got nice special bulk. I'm mostly curious what the Primarina is going to do here, whether it's able to knock out the Ursaluna, and whether it's able to do serious damage to the Talonflame. Okay.
Double knockout!
Yeah, that's a lot of damage. With the critical hit on Talonflame.
Double critical hit!
Okay, the double crit is funny. I think it probably would have knocked out the Ursaluna anyways. I'm not 100% sure about the Talonflame. That one's an interesting one. But that definitely gets Jackson a little bit back into this game.
And also, there's a Throat Spray proc.
There is the Throat Spray proc. I think the thing is, if the last 2 are Indeedee Sneasler, which they are, you're just back in the misery cycle.
Well, the good news for Jackson is that he has yet to proc his Terra, so he has that. He also has Aurora built defenses. It's good to have. The last Pokemon is Garchomp.
Yeah, I think just the big problem here is that you can at least.
I think the question I gotta ask for this specific scenario, well, obviously, other than the second seed proccing on the Sneasler for Unburden and the special defense boost, which matches the Throat Spray boost. My bigger question is, does Garchomp take an expanding force plus close combat? Because I think a move that Jackson can do is protect his Umpre Marina and Earthquake.
I think that's certainly an option, yeah. I do think it is particularly obvious to just start targeting down this Garchomp if possible. There is the Protect, as you mentioned. Could be a double Protect just to scout, but...
No, okay, there is close combat. It's going to trigger Rough Skin. It takes half damage. Okay, that's the thing. Does it live a expanding force? If it does, then it's going to launch an Earthquake. It's going to KO the Sneasler, and then Indeedee's going to have a tough time taking out the Primarina. If it does KO the Garchomp, Anthony's in the driver's seat. Here comes the expanding force in terrain. But against Aurora Veil, it survives. It launches the Earthquake into the Protect. And it's going to knock out the Sneasler because its defense is not great, especially in weakness. Indeed, he's going to live on to the Focus Sash, and it actually goes to the Focus Sash.
Yeah, okay. That was... Even, yeah, I guess with the Aurora Veil, it was barely able to take that. Now it's just a question... yeah,
it's just like... No, Primarina should take an expanding force.
Primarina should probably take an expanding force, and I think you can Terra if you want to make especially... Or no, you don't.
No,
Terra.
you can't.
Yeah, it's Terra Poison. I thought it was Terra Steel because we were looking at the Terra Steel Prim earlier.
Well, there is a Steel Terra, just not in the best spot.
Yeah, I guess you just see what happens. I mean, the problem here is that Anthony can't really try to stall anything out particularly because, yeah, the Tailwind is the only reason that you're staying in this here.
Shoutouts to Alolan Ninetales for taking a Hyper Voice with that Tailwind set up by Anthony. But, yeah, Jackson takes game one. That was really impressive for that Primarina and for that Garchomp from surviving both of those attacks. But I think we gotta look back on an earlier turn, which was that dual Wing Beat miss on the Primarina.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly mattered. I mean, you look at the amount of HP it held on with at the end of that battle, and it very well could have been changed by the dual Wing Beat.
No. Jackson won game one. But yeah, I want to go back to the dual Wing Beat miss, which I honestly think mattered.
It certainly mattered, yeah. I do wonder if Jackson would have played it a little bit more carefully if that was the HP remaining, because I think it would have still been a playable spot. Maybe going for something like a Protect on the Garchomp. I don't know how much Tailwind was left.
I think that was the last turn.
Yeah, because if it was the last turn of Tailwind, Garchomp would have just outspeeded the next turn anyways. But I think the big thing there was just Aurora Veil. Aurora Veil's gets
again, shout out to Alolan Ninetales.
Yeah, and I guess the question is, I think Anthony obviously has routes around this. The question is whether Jackson wants to kind of play into that and just go, okay, I have I have other stuff I can do against this team. Because as much as the team does have answers to everything, the Sacramento winning team with all of this stuff, other teams can kind of just... It has answers, but it doesn't tend to just neutralize anything. There are so many strategies that do just kind of fundamentally work because there's not anything just completely shutting them down, you know?
Yeah, and the thing with Jackson's team, it's meant to either take advantage of Tailwind or take advantage of Aurora Veil. Jackson chose Aurora Veil, and it worked.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's another thing, because the Talonflame went for Braver instead of Tailwind turn one, which ended up mattering here, as Jackson switched it up a little bit. No snow from the Ninetales this time around. Same with for Anthony's going to be Talonflame and a ground type for each side. Garchomp for Jackson, Ursaluna Blood Moon for Anthony.
Yeah, and I guess I'm curious on what Jackson wants to do with this Garchomp here. And imagine that he knew kind of what he was getting into by going with this lead. Obviously does have the ability... I mean, I wonder if Dragon Claw just takes out Talonflame, although you can't really do that since it's Terra Fairy. You have to be kind of...
Yeah, you gotta be mindful about that one. That's a scale shot tech.
Yeah.
Here's the Terra from Anthony. It's Ursaluna once again to that normal type. It's going to boost its damage output. We do know that the Hyper Voice is really enough to knock out the Talonflame. We don't know if that one for the Garchomp. Talonflame for Anthony does launch Tailwind with the Galing's priority. What does Jackson do with the Talonflame? We're matching Tailwinds this time.
Alright, so
Garchomp will launch an attack.
Yeah, we'll see what the Garchomp actually wants to do here.
His Dragon Claw didn't even care about the Terra Fairy Fret.
Bold.
Lives on 15 HP even with the Life Orb boost. Blood Moon's gonna take out something, and I think this is gonna be the Garchomp, and it is.
Yeah. Bold call by Jackson.
Critical hit too?
That's a unnecessary additional amount of damage. Yeah, bold move by Jackson. I don't think it was the wrong call fundamentally, but just not enough damage to take out Talonflame, and I honestly don't know if Jackson's going to be able to bring this back in game number 2.
It's going to depend on what's in the back, because Primarina still can be in an excellent position, and okay, well, there is a Primarina. So it's
I guess on the positive end, you still have your Terra and
Throat Spray.
Well, and Throat Spray, but you matched Tailwinds, so you're not just slower all the time. So you do get to go for a fast Hyper Voice here, and that should chunk the Ursaluna pretty substantially. If not, like, between like a Hyper Voice and a like Brave Bird or Flare Blitz or whatever, like just knocking it out. I don't think that's impossible.
It shouldn't be. And there's Waybird coming out from Jackson's. Gale Wings boosted. Talonflame is going to do half damage almost towards the Ursaluna, and I think we just found out that these Primarina Talonflame speed tie.
Possibly.
Hyper Voice from this Ursaluna. There's no more Aurora able to protect the Primarina. Talonflame obviously wasn't going to take it, but Primarina's down to his last legs.
Yeah, and that the Ursaluna is fast, able to outspeed the Primarina. The Primarina is very slow by itself, and
there's Hyper Voice. It's a double knockout. And yeah, another critical hit on the Talonflame, another critical. Okay, no, it's just one critical hit on the Talonflame.
Mm-hmm.
So Throat Spray goes up. Jackson is down to his last 2, but so is Anthony. But Anthony, we probably know what the last 2 is.
We probably can guess. I think I can wager a guess as to what those last 2 Pokemon are here. I will add. I've been thinking about it. The Talonflames are not speed tied.
I wonder why Anthony's went first then.
Anthony's didn't go first. It went
turn 1.
Turn 1. Anthony's is faster.
Tailwind was matched with Gale Wings.
Yeah, and then Jackson actually kept Gale Wings.
Yeah,
that last turn.
No, they both have Gale Wings before you turn.
No,
Venomoth!
Got hit by the Dragon Claw. Yeah,
right.
Okay, Venomoth is actually very fascinating. Venomoth does have the Rage Powder, which is going to be nice to have. Rage Powder with the Shield Dust makes Dire Claw really annoying to click because you don't really do anything.
The problem though is that it's the poison type, so it's like I think that Venomoth's pinned. So the reason why I say it's pinned, it's weak to Expanding Force. It's Terra Grass, so even though if it tears away from weakness, it's now weak to Dire Claw.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, all you really do is just hope that Primarina has like a gazillion damage with Hyper Voice.
I don't think outspeeds either Pokemon.
Yeah, but if you Rage Powder, then you're taking away. Yeah, I guess that
Expanding Force.
Get hit by Expanding Force. Yeah, I really don't know what the answer is here.
I think the answer's got to be Sleep Powder into the Indeedee. There's a Dire Claw. Doesn't even respect the Primarina there, so never mind. Not even get a chance. Getting 3.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, probably the best way to go about it. And the Venomoth, I like Venomoth quite a bit. It's not a particularly fast Pokemon, and if you have to invest into bulk in order to have it take damage a little bit better with that Shield Dust, Rage Powder, all that stuff, then you're not able to use its speed. And I don't even think it naturally outspeeds male Indeedee. I think it's 5 below in base speed. I think Indeedee is like 95 and Venomoth is like 90. So, in any case, I like the way that Anthony played that game out for the most part. I do think that Talonflame taking that first hit is really important, or was really important, off the Dragon Claw, and I mean, it was bold just going for the Terra Normal Ursaluna when you knew that it was reasonably likely that you were about to get hit by Dragon Claw on your Talonflame and that you could just null it. But I mean, credit to Anthony for knowing that specific calc, probably knowing that you were not going to get knocked out by Dragon Claw there, and that you would be able to keep Talonflame around, get a little bit more damage. If you match Tailwinds, then okay, who cares? I'm still a fast bird. I can do damage later on in this battle.
That's like the idea, because there's not really much Jackson can do about Psychic Terrain, you know. He has no way to remove the terrain, so he's got to deal with the expanding force at all times, and the spread moves are like available. Electro Web, Viper Voice, Expanding Force. He's got to deal with all... Jackson's got to deal with all three of them, and he chose this time not to go Aurora Veil, and I think that if it was Blood Moon coming out, yeah, there's a difficult situation from Jackson now. It's just like, is there a way to go up Aurora Veil is your first question now? The second question is, can you even do that?
Well, and I think even aside from the Aurora Veil issue, I mean, in DD, especially when you're running Focus Sash and you're not like Scarf or anything like that, it's not that fast. Garchomp is certainly faster. Talonflame, I think, is faster. Well, Talonflame is certainly faster. And, then... Yeah, Goldgo's not faster, but you certainly have ways around Indeedee just hitting you with Expanding Force if you keep them around in the back. If you lead Talonflame Garchomp, then you don't have anything that's going to outspeed Indeedee at any point. If those two drop before Indeedee comes out.
Whoa! Ninetales Primarina League coming out from Jackson. It's a new one. And a new one from Anthony as well. It's going to be the Electabuzz and the Incineroar.
Yeah, this could be really, really good for Anthony because you have the Taunt up against the Ninetales.
I mean, it depends if it's faster than Ninetales. Like, no, Ninetales is faster in terms of base speed totals.
Yeah, I think, looking at their sheets right now, they're probably speed-tied. Yeah, Ninetales might be 1 point faster. I'm really curious on how this is going to play out here. I think they're probably just going to be speed-tied, so whether the taunt comes out before or after the Aurora Veil could be pretty meaningful if that's what Anthony wants to play for, or Jackson, frankly, wants to play for, because alternatively they could just try to hit.
Or there should be a fake out, because this Ninetales has no means of stopping fake out, it has no Covert Cloak. I think it's going to be a fake out plus a Electro Ever Taunt turn from Anthony, which is going to be passive, meaning Jackson's either going to... Oh, never mind. I was going to say either going to get Frost Spray Proc or Aurora Veil, but it's going to have to be Aurora Veil, and Garchomp comes in, potentially to eye out Electro Web, and Incineroar fakes out into the Primarina, so definitely didn't want the Front Spray to go up, so both sides will trade damage to Rough Skin and the fake out. There's the Aurora Veil coming out for the Ninetales. It is faster than the Electabuzz, and it is Taunts coming in a little too late. But the only thing it can stop right here is Encore.
Yeah, and I really don't hate the decision from Anthony to do that, because assuming they were speed-tied, 50% of the time that play works perfectly, and
even if it didn't
nothing happens that turn.
Yeah, even if that didn't work correctly, Ninetales can no longer lock the Incineroar to fake out.
That's certainly true. That's not that's a decent enough thing, although it's not terrible at this point to just switch out Incineroar if you had to. But I think the big... at the end of the day, the big problem is just like you need to now work around Aurora Veil. And...
here's the big one. Here's the big one. This is the terrifying Ninetale. So you bring him your Earthquake, Calx.
Yeah, and both of those Pokemon are weak to Earthquake here, and I'm not. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not sure what Electabuzz can do here. It is faster, but yeah, I might just have to protect and try to stick around a little bit longer.
Here's Blizzard coming out from this Alola Ninetales. Does have a 10% chance of freeze against that Incineroar. Doesn't get the chance there. Here's Earthquake. There is no Intimidate because it swapped into the battlefield earlier. It's not going to affect the Ninetales because of that flying type. Here's the Earthquake. Knocks out Incineroar.
Yeah. Not a horrific turn for Anthony. I think the question here, I mean, obviously, what do you have in the back to, like, deal damage?
Here's Ursaluna, though.
I like the Ursaluna. I mean, you're still dealing with the Aurora Veil, but at this point, you kind of just have to click your speed control damage moves. Like, just get as much damage down as possible. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the difficult thing about this turn is that Electabuzz hasn't really nothing to do with this Electro yet. You can slow down Ninetales, yes, but I think the problem is more than likely the Garchomp, which you can no longer intimidate. And so, I'm a little surprised about the switch in, personally speaking, because, well, I think you want to get the Indeedee switch in a little bit safely, and this is not a safe way to bring it in, but Anthony's counting on his Ursaluna's Terra.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is if your Ursaluna is able to take whatever hits coming its way this turn, Blood Moon the Garchomp, finish it off. I think the Indeedee is probably faster than everything, or maybe not faster than everything else, but it's certainly going to. Well, never mind. It's just
Oh my god, yeah, this is gonna be a runaway game from Jackson. Ursaluna survives, but it only has 2 more turns to attack. If it even gets those 2 turns, it gets this one guaranteed. The problem is that Ninetales is still faster than both the Electabuzz and the Ninetales, Electabuzz and the Ursaluna. Blood Moon gonna knock out the Garchomp, but I think this is too little too late.
Yeah, if I'm trying to give the positive side of things, Electroweb. Oh, well, we'll see what's actually in the back here for Jackson, but it's very possible the Electroweb is super effective against everything remaining.
But we know there's a Primarina in the back. That's the only thing that we know.
Yeah, which, I mean, it is super effective against the Primarina, and if the Talonflame is the last thing in the back, then Electroweb is super effective against everything there.
Like, not the Venomoth and the Golden Go, so
yeah, just if it's the Talonflame, which I don't think it's unlikely that it'll be the Talonflame last, but...
Here's Electabuzz again from Anthony, still at full HP. It's Primarina coming back in for Jackson, and
this is another opportunity for the speed tie here. I think if Electabuzz goes first with the Electroweb, it'll be able to stall out just a little bit of time. I like the Protect here. If you can get 2 Electrowebs down, then Ursaluna is so moving faster than those guys.
There's Blizzard coming out for Ninetales. I still believe it is faster than this Electabuzz in terms of like training values. It's going to take it to Blizzard pretty well. Here's Electroweb coming out. Going to be super effective against both Pokemon. Not doing a whole lot of damage to both. But this makes the win condition for Anthony a lot easier because... well, you need 1 big attack for Ursaluna because he only has 1 turn left because of that Life Orb recoil. Electabuzz takes the Hyper Voice, alright.
I think the problem is Electabuzz is just taking too much damage from these Pokemon.
Okay, Ninetales took out the Taunt, which is... Oh, wait a minute. If it's no, it's not faster than the Electabuzz anymore. If it's faster than the Ursaluna, the game's over. But yeah, it shouldn't be. Here's the Electabuzz waiting for Electroweb. If Ursaluna can knock out both of these Pokemon before Electabuzz goes down, the game changes. Otherwise, I think Jackson's got this. Here's Ursaluna launching the Hyper Voice. It might knock out the Ninetales. It should not knock out the Primarina. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not exactly enough damage. I think the Hyper Voice is probably just going to win this here.
Yeah, the Life Orb is going to knock out the Ursaluna. It's going to become a single target +1 Hyper Voice with Liquid Voice and Stab.
Yeah.
And that being said, that was such a good set to be witnessing here, ladies and gentlemen. Jackson Cashman gonna go ahead and win 2-1 over Andy Plasencia once this Hyper Voice launches out, knocks out the Electabuzz. That is it.
Nicely played. I really fascinating game from both sides there. I mean, we've seen a lot of this Talonflame kind of rise up towards the end of Reg H here, and I mean, we definitely saw a lot of the benefits in the earlier games, and then both sides kind of decided, no, actually, gonna opt away from that in the last one, do some different styles of things. Again, if that, what's it called? I'm still... The Alolan Ninetales might have been 1 point faster than the Electabuzz, and that would have made the entire difference in that game.
If it was, then the Taunt would definitely shut down the Aurora Veil, but I find it interesting that both these trainers opted not to go for their Talonflames. Well, we didn't know that Jackson had a Talonflame Cane 3 because we never got to see it.
Yeah, we never got to see the third Pokemon there, but in any case.
Yeah, that's going to be doing it for round number 3 here, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back for another break. We will be getting some well-needed rest. We got, spoiler alert, we got pizza on the way here, and we'll be right back for round number 4 after this break.